Hi, everyone. How are you? Thank you for that. Welcome to Massy Live, everyone. I'm Katrina Legaza Alion, and we're so glad to have you all here in this space where we come together across regions and cultures to discuss topics meaningful to us. A warm welcome to everyone. I see people joining from across all of our regions and seeing St. Lucia and Barbados and more joining. So that's great. Today marks the kickoff of our month-long series on financial literacy, and we're excited to dive into the topics. Today we have the Unit Trust Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, and we would like to welcome Lisa and Omar from Unit Trust to lead us through some budgeting and financial well-being topics. So thank you for joining us. I am going to hand over to Lisa, and we're going to get started because I know we have a lot to move through this morning. So thank you.
Good morning, Team Massy. We are very honored that you all would even consider us for leading in such an important topic. And who doesn't like to talk about money, right? So today I have with me two of my very esteemed colleagues. I have Omar Birch Smith, who is our regional CIS manager for the Eastern Caribbean, currently located in St. Lucia. We have an office in St. Lucia. And of course, Omar has a very big portfolio because he's also responsible for our sales and marketing um, in the Eastern Caribbean. I have with me as well Miss Janice Jackman. She is a manager for our One Woodbrook Place Investment Center, and they are going to provide some support for me this morning because I'm hoping that this session is going to be very interactive. I hope I get a lot of questions because when we talk about money, money could be sometimes very emotional for some of us, right? It is important that we understand the importance of managing our money. And one of the things that I often consider in my whole journey as it comes to my finances, the amount of paychecks that I have from now till retirement. And every month that number is reduced. And depending on what we do with that, it's really going to make a difference in terms of how we live past the job, right? So this morning, I would love to share some very salient tips in terms of how we manage our finance, and of course, how UTC can be part of that journey for you. All right, so Katrina, I'm going to share my screen. Right. Let me know when you're seeing it, Katrina.
Perfect. Yep. I don't know if you want to maximize the screen, put it in presenter.
Oh God, I will do that, certainly, sorry.
That's fine.
Okay, good. Is that any better?
Perfect. Perfect. Much better. Thank you.
Nice. So we were very excited when Massey approached us to do this initiative because this is something that the corporation is very invested in terms of ensuring that we provide financial literacy to all the customers we serve, to the country that we serve, and the countries that we serve, because Omar, as I said, is responsible for the Eastern Caribbean. So managing your finances is what we do, and we do it quite well. And we are happy to share with you what the UTC is going to do for you in terms of your financial journey. So where do we begin? So what is personal finance? Most of us know personal finance is really managing your money, but what it really is it really refers to how we manage not just our money, but the money that we will be saving for our family, investing for financial activities, and of course, there are activities that are very critical to us doing personal finance, and that is really ensuring that we have a proper budget. We ensure that we have funny monies put away for savings, investing, and of course planning. And all of this is really geared towards planning for our future financial goals. I don't know most of you. For me, initially, before I had the knowledge that I have now, a budget for me was something that I had in my head. So I used to really budget. That's what I thought I was doing when I kept a budget in my head, but not really putting it down, having it written. Because it's only when you write down how you are to allocate your funds on a monthly basis, or even the monies that you get as during the months, your bonuses, the extra money that you might be making from a business. If you don't put that down in with pen and paper, you really don't see how that money is really supposed to work for you, or where you probably need to make adjustments or make some major changes, right? So personal finance is what we're going to talk about today, and I'm hoping that the session is very interactive, and I hope that you ask me all the questions that you have for me, right? So there are main aspects of personal finance. One of the main aspects is what I just described, the budgeting element of it. You have to, one of the key things we speak to in finance and investing generally is when you get paid, one of the first things you do is pay yourself. So you pay yourself, and that should also form part of your budgeting. We have savings, and we're going to talk about savings. We're going to talk about the difference between savings and investments. Insurance is also important because with insurance, it actually caters for the unknown, the unseen, and it is important because, of course, as we are living, you will experience illness. Critical illness is one of the major components of making sure that we spend monies there to ensure that we have money to cover us when we are ill. We have managing debts in order for us to be able to create wealth and have a proper personal financial plan is for us to understand what our debts and how we are to better manage that in order for us to achieve the financial goals that we want to in the long term, short term, medium term. And I don't know for most of you all on this call what your age range is like, but certainly whether you're young or whether you're getting into retirement, retirement planning is critical. It is always better when you are younger to be able to save for retirement, because most young people always believe that there is a lot of time on their hands and you have time. But as I mentioned when I introduced what we are going to do today, one of the daunting things, if it is you count the number of paychecks you have till retirement, and you understand that every month that paycheck is that number is reduced every month, and it's reduced 12 times on an annual basis, you can really be daunted by the fact that it's only so much paychecks I have again in order to prepare me for retirement. So retirement is a major component of your personal finance and your first personal financial planning. So we have savings and we have investing. Saving is something that we are accustomed to because we all have bank accounts. We all, over the years, when we started to work, one of the things that you always hear about from your parents, from your peers, from people who are concerned about how you manage your money is about saving. But there is a fundamental difference between saving and investing. And I hope that you guys are paying attention because we have some quizzes that will come during the presentation. So saving involves allocating a portion of income or resources for future and rather than immediate consumption. So in other words, when you save, you're really saving for short-term consumption. It's really saving for something that you're going to use the funds for in less than 3 to 5 years, right? So when you're saving for short-term consumption. However, when you are investing really to create wealth, right? And of course, this definition here will say that investing entails placing funds into diverse financial instruments or assets, anticipating generation of a long-term capital appreciation. But the simple meaning of investing is when you invest, you really invest for the longer term horizon, for longer term goals and some financial goals that you would have. For example, depending on where you are, if it is you are looking to purchase a home in the next 10 years, or hopefully 5 years, you would invest for that rather than save, because you want to make sure that when you're investing it into instruments that will combat inflation. Because as the years roll by and economies change, inflation also can eat up your investments. So whatever you are investing towards in the long term, you have to put it into instruments that is allowed that helps you combat inflation, right? So investing is really a means to invest for long term. It's where you're going to put long term savings in order for you to achieve your long-term goals. Retirement is a long-term goal for some of us. Some people are all close there, but it is important that we also to be able to cater for those things. And we're going to talk a little later about some of the major financial dragons that we need to invest for as any one of us here on this webinar will know that these four financial dragons are areas in our lives that we all have to invest for. If you have any questions, I can't see hands raised. So, Katrina, I'm going to depend on you there to have
For
persons
sure,
unmute.
yes. And anybody has any questions, feel free to place them in the chat and we'll ask them throughout. I know that you just mentioned a term that I think maybe you can explain a little more in case
Sure.
everybody doesn't know what it is, but if you can explain inflation a little bit.
Certainly, certainly. So, inflation, I want to explain it in the simplest of terms. So, most of you all, well, you all work Massy, right? So, I'm going to use the grocery. So you have bread. So, well, Massy back then for us would have been high-low, and a bread may have been $5. But now, when you go to the grocery, a bread is no longer $5. You pay sometimes $15, $20 for a bread. And that is because the cost of that particular commodity would have increased over time. So inflation, in simple terms, is the increase in the value, the reduction in the value of your money over time. So the money that would have purchased a bread in let's say in 1980 is not the same money that will purchase a bread in 2025. So the same $5 that you would have purchased a bread back then, that $5 can no longer purchase a bread in 2025. So inflation is the reduction in the power of the spending power of your money.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Not for now, but we'll keep you posted.
Great, thank you. So there are certain types of assets that we invest in. So there are certain types of assets. You have cash assets, you have stocks, you have bonds, you have physical, and I'll just give you a basic explanation of them. So cash is what we are all familiar with, all right? So when we put money in the bank, it's most of the times it's cash. So of course, cash is really a form of is a highly liquid instrument, right? And cash is really valuable for short-term needs, emergencies, and of course, maintaining liquidity. It's money that you could quickly access. So let's say if you have a rent, you would want to have monies saved so that you can have easy access in order to pay your rent, right? So that particular asset is an asset really um, that allows for easy access, easily liquid. We could just go in and collect cash. Then you have stocks, right? So of course, stocks represents ownership in a company, and owning shares means owning part of the company. And when you all hear the name unit trust, most people will ask us, but what is a unit? What is unit? What does that mean? A unit is really a fraction of a stock, and it allows for, well, you would learn over this presentation that UTC was formed as an act of parliament in 1982, and at UTC, the genesis of unit trust is really would have been to allow the common man on the street to be able to access the wealth that is generated from investing on the stock market. And of course, when you invest in stocks, and shares, you're really purchasing ownership of these companies. And that's what the unit is. It's a fraction of a stock, fraction of a share that of course, which is diversified across companies that trade on the local stock market. So instead of going in and, well, I'm not, yes, by all means, buy your Massy stocks and shares in order to create wealth over time. But just in case you may not be able to afford to do that, you can invest in units. And when you invest in units, you can be assured that you have part ownership of companies that trade on the local stock markets, right? So that you are part owner of Massy, you have part owner of Answer, you are part owner of Guardian. So that is what a unit is. It's a fraction of a share. And when you invest in units, you can be assured that you are positioning yourself to invest on into stock into assets that will create wealth over time through the purchase of units. You have bonds. So bonds are a debt security where investors will lend money to a government to fund some project or some kind of venture that they may have. And of course, what the bond will do is also give you a fixed amount of interest for a period of time, right? And of course, um, these payments and the return is you get your principal at the maturity of the bond. So let's say a government wants to raise a bond to for a project. They may say, okay, we're going to give $200 million, and you can purchase bonds in certain tranches. They'll give you 5%, 4% over a 10-year period. During that 10-year period, you get interest into a bank account. And of course, at the end of the period, you get back the money that you would have invested. So that is what a bond is. And of course, you have the physical, the tangible. For those of you who are into real estate and purchasing property, this is also an asset. It's a physical asset, and it is really um, it has an inherent value that can be owned or controlled. So when you invest in real estate, you invest in land, housing, rent, it's also a form of asset and a form of investment. Any questions?
None so far.
Okay, good. Well, I have one. I
Great.
have one, so I just want to make sure you guys are paying attention and that I'm not alone in this room. So, the first question, which of the following is a key difference between savings and investing? So, I will read the answers and then, Katrina, you will help me um, identify because I can't see anyone now as I'm
Sure.
presenting. So repeating the question, which of the following is a key difference between saving and investing? Saving involves taking on a higher risk to potentially earn greater returns, while investing priorities safety and stability. Saving is typically for short-term goals and has low risk, whereas investing is for long-term goals and involves higher risk. Saving requires a deep understanding of financial markets, while investing does not require any specialized knowledge.
Well, we have answers coming in.
Nice.
So far, we have B's across the board.
You have B's.
B across the board. Yes, everybody's
Nice.
answering with B.
Great.
And we have a question as well. So
Nice.
after, yeah.
We we have a very bright class, right? So we have questions. So let's go with the questions. We'll deal with the answer to this question after.
So the question is, where and how can we purchase bonds? So I don't know if that's something you're going to be dealing with later on.
Yes. So well,
Perfect.
delving into bonds is not something that we are going to get into to this in this particular presentation, but bonds are usually just to help the person who's asking the question. So bonds are usually given issued by government. I know Omar might be able to respond to this a little clearer than me, but I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. So once a bond is an issue, you will normally get that from government, and they will advertise that they have a bond in issue. They will tell you how much the value of the tranches that you can purchase, the value of the bond. the interest rate and the length of time that the bond is in issue for. And that is usually public knowledge. And of course, bonds can be purchased by underwriters. So the government may allow for certain institutions to underwrite the bond. They may tell you, okay, you can go to unit trust to purchase the bond, and unit trust would be an underwriter for the bond. We will do the paperwork. We send it to central bank. They may tell you go to your broker. Your broker might be an underwriter for the bond, and they will usually list where you can, in fact, purchase your bond. All right. And of course, once you're purchasing your bond, your broker or your underwriter will let you know all of the requirements that you need to bring in order to purchase your bond, how long it's going to be there for. And of course, you would have to give them your banking information and so on so that they can remit your interest over the period. And of course, once the bond is mature, they will now also remit that into the bank account that you would have given them during when you were purchasing the bond. Omar, I will just defer to you here to see if there's anything you may want to add to that.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. For the folks in the Eastern Caribbean, bonds can be purchased from the 6 licensed broker dealers in the EC. These include First Citizens, Bank of St. Lucia, Bank of St. Vincent, Grenada Cooperative Bank, and for those folks in St. Kitts, St. Kitts Nevis National Bank and the Bank of Nevis. Bonds are sold via competitive auction as well as over-the-counter or private placement. But you could reach out to any one of these 6 brokers for further information.
Mhm.
Great.
Omar.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Omar.
Omar.
And we have Donna following up with, would I be able to cash out a bond if required on short notice?
You may be able to do that, but if you're doing that, you will actually have to sell it. Someone has to be willing to purchase it. And usually those things, if you're cashing it out before the maturity date, they normally will carry penalties.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Right? Any other questions, Katrina?
We have a great question. Where and how can we purchase shares in Massy Group?
So you can purchase your shares in Massy Group if it is you go to your broker. And so you have various brokers in Trinidad and Tobago that would facilitate the purchase of a Massy shares. But again, of course, you purchasing a share would mean that if the share is what is available and what you can purchase. So you can go to a broker to purchase Massy shares. Well, that's if you're in Trinidad, you can use one of the Trinidad brokers or underwriters for that particular for that share. Brokers are usually what is used, especially for shares that are already in issue.
If you're in Barbados, how do you get those shares? The follow-up question.
Omar will answer that one for me.
Well, I don't cover Barbados, unfortunately. And I'm based on my knowledge, I'm not too sure if Massy is cross-listed in Barbados.
No, we're cross-listed in Jamaica. So
Jamaica,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So folks in Barbados would have to open up a brokerage account with either a broker in Trinidad or a broker in Jamaica.
Great questions.
Yeah.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if you want to get to the answers. We have lots of questions coming in, but we'll keep them till a little bit later on. Yeah.
Okay, so the other part of the question is, which of the following statements is true about investing? A, well, it's supposed to be A, B, and C, but I see A, and B. So we'll determine which one is the real A, right? So investing typically offers higher returns, but comes with higher risks compared to savings. Investing is always safer and guarantees returns, unlike saving. And investing is meant only for people with large sums of money to spare. So please give me the is it A1 or A2, right? My numbering is off there.
A1 or A2, folks? Let's see. We have lots of A's popping up. So A1 from Amanda.
Okay, great. So good. So let me
A1s. Yep.
So I'm going to reveal your answers and you will see who are your winners, right? For this. right? Those who would have gotten it correct, right? So saving is typically for short-term goals and has low risk, whereas investing is for long-term goals and involves higher risk. And of course, investing typically offers higher returns but comes with higher risk compared to saving, right? The power of compounding. So at UTC, we have fund account and the US income fund account. So these accounts, our interest is calculated on a daily basis and is paid quarterly. So if it is you have an instrument that is offering you um, compounding of your interest on a daily basis, you would find that your yield on this particular investment is significantly higher than an instrument that compounds quarterly or compounds semi-annually, because there are instruments out there that does offer compounding, but of course, the more compounding you have on your investment is the greater your yield on the investment. In addition to which, when you earn your returns from your investments and you allow your return to be reinvested into your portfolio or onto your principal, and you have an instrument that is giving you compounding, it is interest paid on interest. And because of that continuous investment, you would see that your yields on these accounts are going to be greater. So when you are selecting an instrument, and depending on the instrument that you have selected, once you have compounding interest, you would want to ensure that your returns can in fact be reinvested. And of course, you select a product which has the compounding effect, that gives a product that gives you much more compounding than a regular, than one that gives you compounding periodically, right? So for example, most of us will have an account at the bank. With the bank, there's no compounding interest. They don't do any compounding. They offer an interest rate, and in most cases, it's lower than what you would get if it is you do an investment, because as mentioned before, your bank accounts are really for saving purposes rather than investing purposes. So you may find that at a bank you may get 0.00 something of a percent, but then there are also charges and fees that will now, um, you will never feel as though you make money with a bank account, because at the end of the day, the charges outweigh the interest that is paid on these accounts, right? One of the things we have to deal with as investors is the fact that you have some fears that we are always mindful of when you're investing. As some people say in our local parlance, I don't know if they say that up the islands, but when you're investing, you need to have some belly depending on the type of an instruments that you invest in based on your risk appetite. So as mentioned in one of the questions, with investing, there's a higher risk with investing, but with that risk comes a greater propensity to make higher returns, right? If it is you go on the safe products that does not have any kind of just giving you plain interest, and you're leaving that money 10, 15 years, you would realize that you would have made more money if you would have invested it in a product that offered you some degree of risk. So a lot of times people have fears in investing because they're afraid to see their money move up and down. But when you are if you really want to create wealth, you need to mix your investment with some investments that do in fact have some level of risk, but those investments should really be money that you're investing for a longer period, rather than using that money rather than using rather and then of course the money that you want to have access to, you put that into instruments that allows for higher liquidity and for easier access in the short term. So a lot of people are afraid of investing because they see their money going up and down. And of course, that is as a result of the market volatility. Some people are afraid of investing because they just don't have the knowledge or the access to information. And that's why Unitrust, we are here to help you along that journey. We are also looking at, some products are very complex and hard to understand, and people are fearful of them. But again, once you have a financial investor who is a professional, who is seasoned in doing investing, who is properly regulated, that's important, and we'll talk about that later on. The importance of selecting products and services from when you're investing your money to make sure that you're not getting into any kind of risky scams or schemes, because in Trinidad and Tobago, we have always, our SEC is constantly advising people to make sure and be very mindful of the investments that you get into, because you want to ensure that once you're placing your money into these institutions that are investing for you, that they are properly regulated, and that that you have that heavy regulation in terms of how the institution manages your money. At UTC, we are a heavily regulated institution because we are considered, in 2013 we were named a SIFI. And for the Trinidadian side of the Massy Group, a SIFI is a systemically important financial institution. It means that UTC is one of the institutions, and we only have 5 in Trinidad, but UTC is one of the institutions that contributes a significant amount towards the country's GDP. So in other words, we are very big, and an institution like ours, it's so big that we can ill afford to fail, and hence the reason why, as a SIFI, the organization, we are heavily regulated. We are constantly audited because we have more than half the population of the country funds invested with us. All right. So you are sure that when you're investing in units and unit trust, you're sure that you're investing in an organization that has stood the test of time, that is, and whose business is above board, right? You have people now who have psychological barriers and emotional biases in terms of investing. So, there are things that they are afraid of that, they will prefer to play it safe. But then if you're saving towards retirement and you're investing in an instrument that is yielding interest that is lower than the inflation rate, it means that your power of your money 10 years from now is not going to be worth much. So it's important that we address those psychological barriers when you start investing. Some people are just not risk averse. Their appetite for risk is very low. So they will not want to get into investing because they are afraid of losing. You have fraud and scams, and as I spoke about that, and the importance of us being mindful of getting into instruments that are and institutions that are properly regulated. And some investments do in fact have high cost and transaction fees. And of course, in real estate, that is one of the investment instruments that do in fact carry high cost, and it does carry transaction fee. But of course, it's an investment that is worth it in the long term, depending on where you invest and what you invest in as it relates to real estate. Any questions? Katrina?
None at this moment.
Okay, great. So this is getting into the crux of the matter in terms of what unit trust does. So we are a mutual fund company. We invest in mutual funds. And for those of you who have never invested in a mutual fund before, don't know what it is, a mutual fund is really a vehicle that pools shareholders' investments, assets, securities like stocks, bonds, what we spoke about, and money market instruments. And money market instruments are those type of instruments that are more cash centric, and that those money market instruments are usually investments that can be easily liquidated, in investments that don't have major risk. And of course, when you're talking about stocks and so on, as I mentioned before, it's really into companies that trade on the local stock market. And there are some other assets that mutual funds invest in by pooling. And of course, some of the features of a mutual fund is the fact that you must have a professional fund manager. They are structured to meet the stated objective, and the portfolio must be diversified. And of course, the portfolio must have a degree of liquidity in it. And of course, with mutual funds, one of the benefits of it for those persons who have fears about investing because they are risk averse, those a mutual fund, because of the very nature of a mutual fund, where you have monies invested into several instruments at the same time, it really allows for your risk to be reduced, right? So it's those persons who are afraid of going direct, because when you invest in a stock, right? So let's just say you're investing in Apple stocks. If Apple takes a hit and you have a big chunk of your investment in Apple and Apple takes a hit, it means that your money is going to dip immediately. The value of your money is going to drop, the value of your portfolio and your Apple shares is going to drop if it's affected by market conditions. Once it will be affected by market conditions. So let's say we have a drop in the Apple shares, your money immediately takes a nosedive. Whereas if you invest in a mutual fund, your money is invested into several instruments at the same time. So even if Apple is one of the stocks in your portfolio and it drops, you have several other stocks that will now pick up the slack in order to buffer any major losses. All right, so mutual funds is a vehicle to create wealth, but you will have to, based on where you are, the mutual fund that is best for you will be determined by your financial goal. So this is generally the cycle of a mutual fund in terms of what happens. You have your investor. The investor is you, the individual who is coming in to the institution that offers the mutual fund, unit trust, for example. So you're the investor, and of course you bring in your funds for investing. Your funds are pooled together. So all of us here in this room, we invest into units. All the money that you bring in, they are pooled together, and then you have a fund manager. The fund manager is someone who is professional, who is trained, who is able to execute and manage your portfolio alongside the laws that govern it. And of course, they now select the appropriate securities to invest in. All right, once the securities generate returns, these returns are available. They can be redeemed, but we spoke about compounding and the importance of reinvestment. So you would want to make sure that whatever you have gained, if you reinvest that, you just make your ability to earn more greater. Any questions?
Any questions, anyone at this point on mutual funds? Okay, maybe later on.
All right, good. So there's different types of mutual funds. We are not going to talk about all of them today because we are limited for time and we want to make sure that we get into more meat of the matter. So you have money market funds. I would have given a little explanation about that before. We have bond funds. We spoke about bonds. We have equity or growth funds, which I would want us to give some focus on later on. We have equity index funds, and we also have balance or hybrid funds. Right, so there's just a snapshot of some of the mutual funds that you have available, and of course each mutual fund will offer a different level of risk and will also offer a different level of propensity for increase in capital growth and dividends. So mutual funds are instruments that are ideal for all of us. All of us can invest in mutual funds. They require professional management. We spoke about diversification. I said from the jump that it is a means of creating wealth, and for us to use that wealth creation to also be our building block for our inheritance for our children, their children, and of course for our legacy, to ensure that when we do in fact retire, that the money that we have earned during our work life has worked for us in such a way that we can maintain a very good standard of living or even better. You want to be able to have some degree of liquidity because we have a local parlance that says life lifing, as life is lifing and things happening, you want to ensure that you have some level of liquidity in your investments, with the investments that you're making. You talk about automatic reinvestment. We spoke about the importance of that. Reinvest your dividends, reinvest, because it will just create more and more opportunities for you to make more, to earn more with the investments that you have made. We talk about affordability. Mutual funds are significantly cheaper to invest in than if you go into um, those premium shares, because most of the times if you're investing into stocks and shares, the ones that make the most money are the ones that are most expensive to purchase. So if it is for us in the local market, you want to get Apple or Republic Bank shares. Let's say Republic Bank in Trinidad. A Republic Bank share is over $100. So not everybody could afford that, but you can certainly afford a mutual fund where the cost of one unit is $20, right? You have professional research and analysis. That is important when managing a mutual fund. And we can assure you that at UTC, this happens on a daily basis. And of course, the regulatory oversight. You do not invest in any institution that does not have proper regulators. Who should invest in mutual funds? All of us. We are all at different junctures in our lives. We are now starting to build collateral, and we will consider those persons novice investors, but we all have to start from somewhere. We have some people who have already started investing in some form or fashion, but you're investing in the same class of assets. You want to be able to diversify your portfolio. So there are people who are looking for investments more so to diversify your portfolio. Long-term investors, people, all of us should have some long-term investing, because we all have to, we spoke about retirement, we spoke about your children's education and so on. So we all should invest in mutual funds, right? We spoke about different asset class, so I will skip this slide over because we spoke about that. But there's one thing I would want to mention, and that's what a net asset value is. So you have individual assets that are held within the mutual fund. As I mentioned before, it's several investments that are pooled, monies that are pooled, and of course the purchase of several types of investments. And then these assets that we purchase for your portfolio, they they collectively contribute to the overall net asset value of your fund. So when we tell you of the cost of a unit costs $20, that is the net asset value. All right, so a net asset value will increase when the stock prices rise. It can also fall if the net asset value falls. All right, and of course you do earn dividends from stocks that contribute to the fund's income and net asset value. All right, so I just needed to share that with you, because when you're investing in unit trust, you're going to see prices of your units, and that is really your net asset value of your various funds that you invest into. Katrina, are we good there for
So we have
questions?
a
Any questions?
question. As you know, we're across 8 regions, and so we have Aaliyah here from Barbados asking, how can an individual who is in Barbados invest in unit trust mutual funds?
Okay, so Aaliyah, is that Aaliyah? That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Aaliyah, you at Unitrust, we do have persons who are foreign citizens, and you can in fact invest in our instruments at Unitrust, right? So usually when you do that, you can onboard. We have some requirements in order for you to onboard. Note though that our funds that are domiciled in Trinidad are in 2 currencies. It's in TT currency and it's in US currency. So if you're in Barbados, and you have no intention of living in Trinidad or coming to Trinidad, then investing for you will be best in our US funds, right? And to invest in unit trust, we have some onboarding requirements as a foreign citizen, which we can share with Katrina, and she can give that information to you all. And you can reach out to myself, Janice, and we will be happy to give you the requirements to open an account at UTC so that you can invest in one of the instruments. There is another question.
Lisa,
Yes, Omar?
yeah, alternatively, so because GBFL doesn't have a license in Barbados, we cannot market or solicit business in Barbados, but folks in Barbados can invest with UTC GBFL. The onboarding requirements Lisa described will obtain. But the good thing, folks in Barbados, is you could actually remit or wire transfer over Barbados dollars to us in the Eastern Caribbean. And you will be able to invest in the GBFL. It's a US dollar fund, so we would convert your Barbados dollars to EC and then to US, right? So we could always go through that in further detail.
Yes, thanks, Omar. Thanks for that. So, Aliyah, you can invest even in your region at GBFL. So we can provide that onboarding requirements for you, and we'll send that to Katrina so that she
Thank
can
you.
share with the
Nicholas,
group.
I think, has his hand up. Nicholas?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Nicholas.
Morning.
I am much more interested in buying stocks and bonds. Is that possible? What's the procedure with that? The investing in stocks and bonds?
To invest in stocks and bonds, well, you do that already with investing in unit trust, right? So once you invest in units, you are investing in stocks and bonds indirectly. However, to purchase stocks and bonds, you'll have to go to a broker in order to purchase that. UTC, unfortunately, we are not a broker at this point.
So,
So
Nicholas, we will be having a session specifically on that later on in the month. We will post a schedule in the chat shortly.
For sure. One more question. How do I join Unit Trust Corporation? How do I join? I'm interested in joining.
it's very easy, very, very easy to open an account at Unit Trust. You are just required to provide proof of address, proof of income, and of course, your government issued identification. And depending on if it is your onboarding as a foreign customer, you may or may not have to provide some additional stuff, but it's not very aggressive documentation to have an account at Unit Trust.
Okay, thanks very much.
But we will provide this, Nicholas, to Katrina so she can share with the team. So anyone who is desirous of onboarding can reach out to myself and Janice. And of course, for the Eastern Caribbean, reach out to Omar. We're going to also give you guys our contact information.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
thanks very much.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. So mutual fund performance measure, it's more or less based on your market value in terms of how your mutual funds perform. It is important that you understand your net asset value is really pegged to your fund assets minus its liabilities. And of course, that is also divided by the total number of outstanding shares. So that's just for persons who are interested in terms of knowing how the UTC will calculate your net asset value, right? Or how net asset value is calculated on a whole. So a fund asset, the assets in a fund is really a total market value of the fund's investment, your cash and cash equivalents, and then you have receivables and accrued income. Some big terms, but really and truly the essence of this is to understand that the mutual fund performance measure is really in its net asset value. Yeah? Meaning, if you pay a price for this, if your price today is $10 and 5 years down the road it is $25, your net asset value is what is going to give you your capital growth. You get capital growth from that as well, right? Through the increase in your net asset value. So just a little bit about unit trust. If you can't see well with the highlights, forgive me, but UTC, as mentioned before, we were established in 1982. We currently have $24.2 billion under management. And of course, we, as mentioned before, we actually have about half the population of Trinidad and Tobago, right? So we have over 560,000 unit holders. We manage nine funds, and of course we have distribution channels across the network. We have 9 investment centers, we have online agencies, we have ATMs, we have a digital business platform, we have different channels where you can invest with us. You just need to be established as a unit holder, and once you are able to use any of our digital channels to do and to make your investments. We have $1.7 billion in return earnings, and we currently control 37.2% of the market share for institutions that are like us, right? We have distributed 11.3 billion in distributions. And of course, as mentioned before, we are SIFI, and we are a relatively large institution, right? Well, growing, I should say, with just a staff complement of 524. As mentioned before, we're going to tackle these 4 financial dragons. And for all of us on this platform, um, whether you have kids or not, whether you're young, you're old, you're older, I should say, whether you're leading into retirement, getting into retirement, or preparing for retirement, we all have these 4 financial dragons. And why call it a dragon? Because these are the 4 things that all of us would have on our investment horizon. And it's these things that actually um, consume most of our investments. So 1 second.
Gosh, that's okay, Lisa. You okay?
Sorry, just
Yes, it's fine.
I'm right over a vent.
Oh, okay.
So okay, so we have home acquisition. So home acquisition is one of the major goals, financial goals that allow us to, well, will require us to spend some money and to save aggressively towards. We have education funding, not only for our children, but even for ourselves. So if it is you're building a career and you are looking at furthering your education, 1 second.
In the meanwhile, I will give Lisa a couple of minutes.
Morning.
We will I'm posting
Good
into the chat when the Understanding Stocks and Stock Market webinar will be happening on August 13th. And we will be sending the schedule out to everyone else with all the information from today via email and communications after this this webinar. So thank you. Lisa, you okay? It's okay if you need a little break.
Yeah, I'm better. 1 second, let me just reshare my screen.
Lisa, you want me to just respond to the questions while you catch your breath a bit?
Yes, please, Janice.
Yes,
Thank
we
you
have
very
questions.
much.
Perfect.
Okay, sure. There is one which we requesting where can one open an account for their child with UTC? Lisa mentioned earlier on that we were actually instituted by an act of parliament, and in the regulation says that we can open accounts from young adults from the age of 18 onwards. So therefore, accounts can only be opened for persons from 18 years onwards. However, if you are a parent or guardian to some child, an account can be opened, but it will be open in the adult's name, and the child will be the beneficiary of the account. What will be required, we will send it again to Katrina with respect to requirements of opening an account. The same thing would apply then. Your IDs, proof of your address if you are employed, a job letter or a salary slip. And of course, if it's for a child, we will require the date of birth for the child. What was the other one? Well, what would you recommend for a starter account for your child? There is an account which is called the Children Investment Starter Plan, simply as CISISP. We recommend that. We could also send you further information on that regarding that. And someone also asked, could you remind me the term SIFI, which is a systemically important financial institution?
Thank you, Janice.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Dan. Okay, so So we were talking about these financial dragons. So we were at education funding, and Janice would have answered a question relating to this education funding. We are going to get into the products and services shortly. Critical illness, a lot of times we don't think about this, especially when we are well, that we don't think that critical illness is important, but sometimes, sometimes at very short notice, something happens to us, but we need to ensure that we have the funds in order to take care of our health and so on, right? And of course, we spoke about retirement. This is what Omar is talking about in terms of Omar is dealing with. So Omar, can you give a little more information on GBFL in the Eastern Caribbean?
No problem. Right, so the UTC Global Balance Fund is a balance fund licensed and operated in St. Lucia and throughout the Eastern Caribbean. So some of you in the Eastern Caribbean may have seen some of our marketing via social media or in traditional media. When we launched in 2023, we were the first in the OECS. We are regulated by the Eastern Caribbean Central Securities, the Eastern Caribbean Securities Regulatory Commission, the ECSRC, the only regulator of securities business in the Eastern Caribbean. And we're a balance fund basically with the objective of providing capital growth and income to our investors, right? So folks can actually begin investing with as low as 100 US or the EC equivalent of that, which is about 272 EC. And there are several ways to start the investing process. So you could invest directly with us, or you could invest with a broker. Right now, we're partnered with 3 broker dealers covering Grenada, St. Vincent, and St. Lucia. Those folks further the chain, we are working with the banks there who are licensed to come on as distributors. But you can liaise directly with us, log onto our website, and it's fairly easy to get started, right? And like I said earlier to the team from Barbados, this applies to you as well.
Do we have any questions for Omar?
Yes. Well, any questions specifically for Omar? We do have a question here from Dale. So what has been the average yearly growth rate of mutual funds with unit trust managed by UTC? Do you consistently exceed TNT's inflation rate?
So consistently exceeding the inflation rate, the answer to that is no, because of course mutual funds are affected by stock markets, but over time the answer would be yes.
Great. I know we only have about 2 minutes left, and this is such great information, so many questions, and we will be sending out any follow-up information. But any final words, Omar or Lisa, if you're able?
Okay, so I just wanted to just share some information on our products that we have offered right now.
Perfect. Great.
So I'm going to skip here and I'm going to get into the TT Income Fund account. So that is a account that allows for it works like a savings account at a bank, but of course it has the power of compounding associated with it, and it's compounded daily and it's paid quarterly. There are no charges, no penalties associated with these accounts. And of course, you can invest at your own pace, and there's a card that is associated with it should you desire to have easy access. And of course, there's safety of your capital. Currently, the TT Income Fund has a 3.15% effective yield. And of course, it is one of the higher paying instruments for short-term type of investments, or for persons who are risk adverse and they don't want to take any kind of risk, but they have money that they have sitting getting very low returns. You find that you have this TT Income Fund account that can someone mute? Someone is talking. Katrina?
I'm not sure. Yeah, if you can all mute your That would great. Perfect.
Yeah, so we have a matching. So currently our TT income fund is
You're muted, Lisa.
sorry, did you hear
Okay.
the TT about the TT income fund?
Yes.
All right, so we also have a matching US income fund account that is currently paying 3.551% yield, which is one of the highest returns in the market currently. And to open that account just requires you to invest 100 US to start with. And of course, you can make your payments via electronic transfers and so on. You also have the use of a card, which you can use internationally. Any country in the world, you can use your Unitrust Visa, US Visa card. The Growth and Income Fund, this is a very critical fund. It's a fund that will allow you long-term benefits. It's one of the funds that will allow you to also create wealth. And this particular fund, this is a fund that will help beat inflation and increasing capital because this account really caters for investments for your long term. Anything that is 5 years and over, you have maximum growth. You also have income growth through the increase in your net asset value over time. And of course, you also receive dividends every 6 months on this growth and income fund. You can also invest at your own pace, but if you do in fact have an emergency, you can have access to that. There is although the guarantee is really not the secret sauce in this particular investment, you do have that guarantee that offers a peace of mind, but the real benefit to this account is investing long term and ensuring that you are investing for your long-term goals in a fund that allows for growth as well as capital growth as well as income. These accounts can be used as collateral against loans. If it is you are taking credit from a bank, you don't want to use your savings, you can in fact use your Unitrust income fund as well as your growth and income fund as security. This answers the question from the young lady who spoke about can I invest for my child? So yes, you can. We have something called a CISP account that offers, it's actually a fund under our growth and income fund. It's really for long-term investment for your children. When you start that account with $100, you get a matching $100, but we have an offer, a promotion running right now. If it is you invest for your child who has written SEA, and I don't know if they call it that down the islands, but you have the school entrance assessment exam. That's where your child gets into secondary school. You can, at this point in time, the promotion is running till the end of September, and you can invest $100 and the corporation will gift $200 in units to that account for your child. For retirement, we have several products, and of course, they are all long-term products. They have the same long-term benefits. We also have one for some of you all who are in high-paying jobs that pay a lot, where you pay a lot of tax, and you're looking for a tax deduction or reduction. The Pension Plus is an exceptionally good product for you to invest in. It's a long-term fund. It has the potential for capital appreciation. It works similar to an annuity where after we do the investing for you, upon retirement, an insurance company takes it over and then they will now work out your pension for life, as well as it comes with life insurance. So this is a fantastic product for persons who are earning in the tax brackets and pays very high tax. This is an exceptionally good option for you to invest in for retirement. For those of you all who do not pay so much tax or already have maxed out your tax deduction limits, you can invest in the individual retirement account as well as the universal retirement fund that allows you to access funds when you're and you can access all of them, right? So you determine from these two funds, the IRA and the URF, you have full access to your investment upon retirement, right? And that's it for us. If there are any questions,
We do. We have a bunch of questions.
great.
So from Randy, what is the maximum insured value of the TT income fund?
So mutual funds do not carry insurance because of the sheer nature that mutual funds are really for the mutual funds are really carries with it risk, and for depositors insurance, unit trusts don't give loans, so that's the first thing. So because we don't give loans, our business is really not extremely risky. However, the investments that you are making, they do in fact carry risk, and it's risk that you know about upfront. And there's, as mentioned, there are some products that carry very little or no risk, and they have or nominal risk. And then you have the equity funds, which carry risk based on market performance. And that is something that you do have total control over, because you don't sell when your price is lower than what you paid for it. You sell when it is higher, right? So mutual funds do not carry insurance, but understanding why is important. I hope
Great,
I answered your
thank
question.
you. Perfect. We then have, if I have a pension account that has 4% interest, is there a unit trust product more beneficial?
So if you have a pension product that has 4% interest, is it 4% guaranteed interest? And is that 4% a value that is held till retirement?
I don't know, Sandra. I think that what perhaps we can do is connect. We'll send your contact information so
Yes,
that people
please.
can ask their
Okay.
questions. I know we're a bit over now, and people probably have to rush off. Nicholas, I know you have your hand up. I don't know if you want to ask your question quickly.
One question, like if you go San Fernando branch, I was interested in the US market account and the retirement account because I just pay a lot of taxes.
Right.
So me, I'm much more interested in going San Fernando branch and doing that where I could still get back something in the back end. And one more, I have a coworker here, you want to know at what age group he can join because he's close to 60 and he was thinking about the retirement.
It doesn't matter at all what age group you can join. Of course, as a retiree, someone who's close to retirement or retired, you may want to look at your portfolio a little closer, and you may want to have, it's important to have long-term instruments that is going to gain capital growth and all of that, because although at 60 is still relatively young, really, and you can invest and should invest into long-term instruments, but how much to invest in that long-term instrument should really be determined by your needs. So talk to us, and we will be able to give you the guidance in terms of how best to mix your portfolio. So we are happy to assist. And yes, Nicholas, you can in fact go to our San Fernando branch, but still allow us the opportunity to just open a fast door for you and assign you to one of our customer service rep who is able to assist you right away with your investment.
I will really appreciate that customer service. Thanks very much for that. I really
You're,
appreciate it.
you're quite welcome. All of you are now elite members of the potential unit trust family, so you're going to get the red carpet rollout even more than we do usually.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This has been a great session, and hopefully we'll be able to have you all again, because clearly there's a lot of follow-up, but there's a lot more than we can learn from you. So thank you so much. And I just wanted to share with everybody who's on the next session. So every Wednesday for this month, we're going to be having sessions on financial literacy. And next week we have Dr. Peter Well. And I think, Dr. Well, are you on right now? I don't know if you want to say hi quickly. I think I saw that.
Here.
Great. As Dr. Weller, as Lisa was talking about the financial dragons, I was thinking about you, because I know that the psychology behind the financial choices that we make and the anxiety sometimes this brings is something that we all need to face and to understand. So that's what Dr. Weller will be talking about tomorrow, next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Doc?
Well, we have a lot of knowledge, but translating that knowledge into behavior change is not always easy. So that's where it's always good to have that self-awareness, that insight. Then you can use the knowledge. But a lot of it depends on who we're living with and our partner and our dreams and what our parents taught us. And all of these other attitudes and beliefs get in the way of applying knowledge. So we'll be talking about that next week and looking at ways that you can develop strategies to actually do what you know you need to do
Perfect. Thank you so much. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Omar, for bringing the Eastern Caribbean perspective and getting that context in for us, and Janice. And we hope to connect with you all again, partner, further. And we'll share all of this information through our email and WhatsApp channel. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day and great week.
Thank you, Katrina. Thank you, Team Massy. Thank you very much for having us.
Great. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Katrina, before you leave, stop channel.
Bye. Thank you.
Hey, where's the next one? Next one.
What day?
What?
What day again?
I'm not thinking of.
How?